Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in this world. God bless you. This is Gloria White coming to you from Utah, USA. Yesterday I recorded First Maccabees Chapter 9, and it did that thing where it put a lock on it and didn't publish it. So I just published it. And now I'm going to start reading in the New Jerusalem Bible in the book First Maccabees, and we will be in chapter 10. And we'll see how far we get in about 15 minutes. So here's the subtitle. Alexander Balas competes for Jonathan's support and appoints him high priest. In the year 160, Alexander, son of Antiochus Epiphanes, raised an army and occupied Ptolemais. He was well received, and there inaugurated his reign. On hearing this, King Demetrius assembled a very large army and marched off to do battle with him. Demetrius furthermore sent Jonathan a most conciliatory letter, promising to promote him in rank, for, as he said, we had better move first to come to terms with these people before he makes common cause with Alexander against us. He will not have forgotten all the wrongs we inflicted on him and his brothers and on his nation. He even authorized him to raise an army, to manufacture arms, and to describe him as his ally, and ordered the hostages in the citadel to be surrendered to him. Jonathan went straight to Jerusalem and read the letter in the hearing of the whole people and of the people in the citadel. They were terrified when they heard that the king had given him authority to raise an army. The men in the citadel surrounded the hostages to Jonathan, who handed them back to their parents. Jonathan then took up residence in Jerusalem and began the rebuilding and restoration of the city. He ordered those responsible for the work to build the walls and the defenses round Mount Zion of squared stone blocks to make them stronger, and this was done. The foreigners in the fortresses built by Bachidas abandoned them, one after another leaving his post to go back to his own country. Only at Beth Zor were a few left of those who had forsaken the law and the precepts, since this was their refuge. See, the law, which is the commandments, and the precepts, which are caring for the widow and orphans, providing for the widows and orphans, caring for the poor and the needy, visiting the sick and those in imprisonment, and being kind to the sojourner. Verse 15. King Alexander heard of all the promises Demetrius had sent to Jonathan, and he was also given an account of the battles and exploits of this man and his brothers, and of the hardships they had endured. "Shall we ever find another man like him?" he exclaimed. "We must make him our friend and ally." He therefore wrote him a letter addressing him in these terms: King Alexander, to his brother Jonathan, greetings. You have been brought to our notice as a strong man of action, and as someone who deserves to be our friend. Accordingly, we have today appointed you high priest of your nation, with the title of Friend of the King. He also sent him a purple robe and a golden crown, and you are to study our interest and maintain friendly relations with us. Jonathan put on the sacred vestments in the 7th month of the year 160, on the Feast of Shelters. He then set about raising troops and manufacturing arms in quantity. A letter from Demetrius I to Jonathan. Demetrius was displeased when he heard what had happened. "What have we been doing," he said, "for Alexander to forestall us in winning the friendship of the Jews, and so improving his own position? I too shall address an appeal to them, offering them advancement and riches as an inducement to support me." And he wrote to them as follows: King Demetrius to the Jewish nation, greetings. We have heard how you have kept your agreement with us, and have maintained friendly relations with us, and have not gone over to our enemies, and it has given us great satisfaction. If you now continue to keep faith with us, we shall make you a handsome return for what you do on our behalf. We shall accord you many exemptions and grant you privileges. Henceforth I release you and exempt all the Jews from the tribute, the salt dues, and the crown levies. And whereas I am entitled to 1/3 of the grain and 1/2 of the fruit of the trees, I release from this levy from today and for the future Judea and the 3 districts annexed to it, from Samaria, Galilee, from this day henceforth in perpetuity. Jerusalem will be sacred and exempt, with its territory, from tithes and dues. I relinquish control of the citadel in Jerusalem and make it over to the high priest, so that he may man it with a garrison of his own choosing. Every Jewish person taken from Judea into captivity in any part of my kingdom I will set free without ransom, and decree that all will be exempt from taxes, even on their livestock. All festivals, Sabbaths, new moons, and days of special observance, and the 3 days before and the 3 days after a festival, will be days of exemption and quittance for all the Jews in my kingdom, and no one will have the right to exact payment from, or to molest, any of them for any manner whatsoever, any matter whatsoever. Jews will be enrolled in the king's forces to the number of 30,000 men, and receive maintenance on the same scale as the rest of the king's forces. Some of them will be stationed in the king's major fortresses, and from among other appointments will be made to positions of trust in the kingdom. Their officers and commanders will be appointed from their own number, and will live under their own laws, as the king has prescribed for Judea. As regards the 3 districts annexed, to Jerusalem from the province of Samaria, these will be integrated into Judea and considered as coming under one governor, obeying the high priest authority and no other. Ptolemais and the land thereto pertaining I present to the sanctuary in Jerusalem, to meet the necessary expenses of public worship. And I make a personal grant of 15,000 silver shekels annually, chargeable to the royal revenue from appropriate places. And the entire surplus, which has not been paid in by the officials as in previous years, will henceforth be paid over by them for work on the temple. In addition, the sum of 5,000 silver shekels, levied annually on the profits of the sanctuary, as shown in the annual accounts, is also relinquished as the prerequisite of the priest to perform the liturgy. Anyone who takes refuge in the temple in Jerusalem or any of its precincts, when in debt to the royal exchequer, or otherwise, will be discharged in full possession of all the goods he owns in my kingdom. As regards the building and restoration of the sanctuary, the expense of the work will be met from the royal exchequer. The reconstruction of the walls of Jerusalem and the fortification of the perimeter will also be a charge on the royal exchequer, as also the reconstruction of other city walls in Jerusalem. Wow, he is really piling on the goodies, huh? He's not going to be outdone by Alexander. Let's see. Jonathan rejects Demetrius's offers. Death of Demetrius. When Jonathan and the people heard these proposals, they put no faith in them and refused to accept them, remembering what great wrongs Demetrius had done to Israel and how cruelly he had oppressed them. They decided in favor of Alexander, since he seemed to offer the better inducements of the two, and they became his constant allies. King Alexander now mustered large forces and advanced against Demetrius. The two kings met in battle. Demetrius's army was defeated, and Alexander pursued him energetically. He continued the battle with vigor until sunset, and that day Demetrius was killed. I think we can read one more little section. Jonathan as commander-in-chief, or let's see, first it's Alexander's marriage with Cleopatra, and Jonathan as commander-in-chief and governor-general. Alexander sent ambassadors to Ptolemy, king of Egypt, with this message: "Since I have returned to my kingdom and have ascended the throne of my ancestors, have gained control by crushing Demetrius, and so recovered our country. For I fought him, and we crushed both him and his army, and I now occupy his royal throne. Let us now make a treaty of friendship. Give me your daughter in marriage. As your son-in-law, I shall give you and her presents which are worthy of you." King Ptolemy replied as follows: "Happy the day when you return to the land of your ancestors and ascended their royal throne. I shall at once do for you what your letter proposes, but meet me at Ptolemais, so that we can see one another, and I shall become your father-in-law as you have asked." Ptolemy left Egypt with his daughter Cleopatra and reached Ptolemais in the year 162. King Alexander went to meet him, and Ptolemy gave him the hand of his daughter Cleopatra and celebrated her wedding in Ptolemais with great magnificence, as kings do. King Alexander then wrote to Jonathan to come and meet him. Jonathan made his way in state to Ptolemais and met the two kings. He gave them and their friends silver and gold and many gifts, and made a favorable impression on them. A number of scoundrels, the pest of Israel, combined to denounce him, but the king paid no attention to them. In fact, the king commanded that Jonathan should be divested of his own garments and clothed in the purple, which was done. The king then seated him by his side and said to his officers, "Escort him into the center of the city, and proclaim that no one is to bring charges against him on any count. No one is to molest him for any reason." And so, when his accusers saw the honor done him by this proclamation, and Jonathan himself invested in the purple, they all fled. The king did him the honor of enrolling him among the first friends, and appointed him commander-in-chief and governor-general. Jonathan then returned to Jerusalem in peace and gladness. And as always, I love you.